Sir?
Hello, sir. My name is Faisal Raza, and I'm from Nestlé, Pakistan. And you have, during your discussion, have mostly discussed about the industrial aspect of the related to the water. But my question is pertaining to the agriculture sector, because as you know, being a food company, most of our raw material is coming from the agriculture. And as everybody is speaking about that industry is the one who is causing a lot of depletion and in the underwater table. But I must say that the agriculture sector is also responsible, as because of we are facing a lot of scarcity in terms of rains, and the agriculture is dependent on the tube wells, and they are the one mostly who are responsible for extracting a lot of water out of the subsoil, and depletion. There is no depletion of the underground aquifers. So how would you advise the agriculture sector in terms of the water scarcity which our generations will face in times to come?
You're quite right. As I said in my presentation, that agriculture is really the sector where you will get the biggest gains in efficiencies, simply because all over Asia, agriculture draws between 75 and 85% of accessible fresh water. I also spoke about Punjab in India, and the same is true of Punjab in Pakistan, where overdrawals of groundwater by farmers have actually turned at least the Indian Punjab into a state that resembles more a desert than the granary it was designed to be 40 years ago. Typically, irrigated agriculture is complex in terms of the problems, and is particularly complex in terms of solutions. And South Asia, where you and I come from, irrigated agriculture in fact constitutes the vote base for our politicians. And they are loath to touch these vote bases for reasons that we are all aware of. But choices now need to be made, hard choices. I spoke to you about some measures that could be contemplated. No-till farming, for example. You stop tilling your land, you save about 15 to 20% in terms of water that you will use. You also get a drop in yield for a couple of years, but then the yield picks up. And so you have to have a government which is willing to say that, okay, I will subsidize, I will top up that drop in yield for the 2 years that you are going to take this pain, but thereafter you will be all right, and I will have a measured decrease in the volume of water that is given to you. You have increased usage of drip and sprinkler irrigation systems. If the private sector was to invest in those systems, if the government was to provide initial subsidies, as it is doing in many countries in Asia, these can take off. But that is where you're going to get the greatest gains. You're not going to get the greatest gains from industry or from municipal usage of water. You are going to get it from irrigated agriculture. If a simple ABC analysis will tell you that. So that is where I would recommend governments should concentrate their attention.
Okay, can we take this last question before we wrap up? Maybe that can be our wrap up, sir. I've been getting cues.
Hi, I am Chinky from Asian Institute of Management, and I would like to ask, what is the impact of the country's population policy on water degradation and availability?
On water?
On water degradation and availability.
Degradation and
availability.
Availability.
Well, I don't know about population policy, but the fact that we have 1.2 billion, close to 1.2 billion people in India and about the same in China means that you have major impacts, because in both these countries, in India, for example, the aggregate gap between demand and supply 20 years from now is going to be 50%. 1,500 billion cubic meters of water every year, okay? In China, they're going to be, because they manage their water better than India, they're going to have an aggregate demand of 818 billion cubic meters. But guess what? India is going to be spending about 1/4 only as much as China to close its twice as much water gap, 50 against 25%. Why? Because China in its rush to industrialization, in its rush to urbanization, has actually caused a lot more damage to its water bodies than India has. All right? So the size of our population, the rate of urbanization, the rate of industrialization, the changes in the dietary preferences of rising middle classes everywhere, higher disposable incomes, all is going to play a crucial part in the way we manage our water resources. Meat consumption. Did you know that in China, meat consumption has increased by 100% in the last 20 years and has forecast to double in the next 20 years? It takes 15,000 liters of water to produce a kilogram of beef. Where is this water going to come from? So that's the impact of population and dietary preferences on water management.
Arjun, since my advocacy is really to deal with civic awareness among the young, and the tool that we always use is to make them very afraid. So fear always works for me, at least because I'm not very good like that. I just scare them, and then I scare them into an advocacy. Is there any other method we can use when it comes to the urgency of the issue of water, other than fear, or is that the best tool?
Education, education, education. That is the best that you can do from as early an age as possible to put it into the consciousness of children of the next generation that water is a resource that cannot be used at an extravagant 200 liters per capita per day, but closer to 80 or 90 liters per capita per day. You have to be conscious. You know, I gave you the number for the Philippines, 1,907 cubic meters per capita per year. Singapore has 149. Israel has 276. Jordan has 140. They are good at managing their water because they have discipline, they have education, and they have the right technologies and the right policies through their water laws. We can do the same in the Philippines. We can do the same in India and China. But you need the political will to get there. That is the missing ingredient at this point in time.
Ladies and gentlemen, a man who chose one of the most crucial things as his advocacy. Thank you very much for spending time, sir. Pleasure.